Welcome to Almost Here, Round the Corner Future Technology podcast with Richard Jacobs. Future technologies poised to transform our lives for better or worse are the focus of this podcast. Almost here means these technologies are now here and starting to be used, or just around the corner, from Bitcoin to artificial intelligence, 3D printing, blockchain, virtual reality, and more.
Hello, this is Richard Jacobs with the Future Tech Health and Future Tech podcast. My guest is Rob Frizzell, the CEO and co-founder of OmniPreSense, and the website is www.omnipresense.com. So, Rob, thanks for coming, and how you doing?
Good, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. What's the idea behind OmniPreSense? What's the company about?
So, short-range radar sensors. That's what we're doing when we started the company coming up on 3 years ago. We saw, of course, there's a lot of interest in the IoT space, and a lot of emphasis on that is over in the cloud side of it, the dashboard, the analytics of the data. And we saw a lot of people were kind of missing that the sensor is actually quite important there, because that is actually the device that is creating the data. And among the sensors that were out there, we saw kind of a void in people paying attention to radars, short-range radar as a sensor. So radars kind of have a number of very interesting aspects to them as a sensor, in that they act a little bit more like a camera. They let a system have a field of view, a knowledge about what's in front of it and what's out there. And so we're making these more affordable and easy to integrate into systems.
So normal radar, how far of a distance does it act or does it see? And how do you compare that to short-range radar?
Yeah, normally when, I'll say the original roots of radar, you wanted to detect a plane in the sky. So these are, many, many miles or kilometers away. And recently, short-range radar has really come on as a hot market. The question that we constantly get when somebody hears we're doing radar is, oh, you're doing automotive, which is something we could do as an application, but we actually don't. Automotive is the hot market for radar right now. You see it in the cars. Whenever you see those car commercials, the car automatically stopping with a person walking in the crosswalk. It is a 77 gigahertz radar that has detected the person and then given the guidance, stop. If you see the commercials with the blindside detection, your mirror, the little light lighting up because some car is in your blind spot, that is a 24 gigahertz radar, very similar to what we produce. So that is the hot market, and really more the question in that segment of the market is just how many radars will be on the car. You've got one looking forward for I'll say the long of the short range, needing to go 100 meters, 150, 200 meters, so call it a football field or more of distance. And then you've got your shorter range radars, that blindside detection that needs to see only 3 meters, 5 meters back, not very far at all.
Okay. So your application, instead of cars, it's used for drones?
Drones is one of the applications there's a lot of interest for our solution. Our solutions see around 10 to 25 meters, maybe a little bit farther, depending on what we're looking for. And for drones, that's a rather interesting number. It can help them provide collision avoidance so that they don't run into things. Drones is, one definite market for us. Robotics in general, in the future, year 2, 3 out, we're going to have more and more robots that are wandering around among us. And if they're going to do that, they're going to have to be as aware of their environment as you and I are. That, we kind of take this for granted, but, we very quickly judge how fast somebody or something is approaching us. And if it's approaching on a trajectory that we care, somebody just passing in front of you, maybe you don't care. So you continue walking, you don't slow down or anything like that. A robot needs to be just as aware as we are and figure that out quickly so it doesn't run into people or things. Robotics, drones are flying robots to us. The same kind of situation. They may just move a little bit faster and they're definitely going to be up above our heads. There's a lot of other applications in traffic monitoring. So radars have been used, of course, for catching the speed of cars. But you can take that another step further and use it for watching the traffic of the cars. How many cars are going by at a particular time, how many in this lane or that lane, what are the speeds of those cars individually. So you can get some good information there for just general traffic monitoring, or police want to kind of maybe know when do those speeders show up. We'll get out there at that time. Often the future kind of variation on that we see is people traffic monitoring. How many people are walking up and down this sidewalk or over on that bike path? How many bikes are there versus people versus joggers? So there's a lot of potential to be doing people traffic monitoring.
How well defined is the vision from radar? Is it? I mean, when you see it in the movies, it's sloppy. It's like blobs or blips. Current radar today, can it really see the edges of an object? Like, how good is it?
A good question. It depends. If you could see a radar image, you more likely need somebody who's working on radar to explain it to you. What is what? It will not look like something that you or I would immediately recognize. There are efforts by some people to do or take those radar images and make them look more like something you would recognize and enhance that resolution. There's some interesting trends coming up with adding more bandwidth in the signal that will allow for refining up that kind of image that you see. And you can get into some fairly low numbers, so resolutions in the, I'll say, sub 10 centimeter range. Some people are pushing into the sub centimeter range, although those would probably be quite a bit more costly. So you can start to, if you can imagine that objects with resolutions or edge detection down into the low centimeter range, you start to get a decent looking image of what that item is. But imaging of using radar to image is you can do it, but maybe that's not using it to the best of its abilities, or maybe at the proper price point or the economics of it. Radar is very good. That resolution of an image might not sound good at a few centimeters, but if you needed to know the speed of an object or the distance to it, those you can dial in very, very accurately. 0.1% accurate type of numbers.
Oh, wow.
So if you don't need to, let's say, see an image, but you want to know the data about that object that is moving out there, radar can be very, very accurate in that sense.
Well, how fast can it measure objects? I mean, for cars and driving, I guess it would want to see things anywhere from a mile or two an hour up to maybe 100 miles an hour. But for drones, I don't know if it's the same range. What's the sweet spot of radar to determine speed?
Yeah, it all gets kind of tied into how you design that radar. That's one of the things we've tried to do with ours, is make it very flexible with a very simple API to give it a programmability. So depending on what you want to do, if you are doing people traffic, you can configure it to have a very high resolution for people speeds. We all walk maybe around a meter per second. If you need to push it up higher, cars on a freeway, maybe you're going to need to top off at around 100 miles an hour. Drones, there's talk of drones going over 100 miles an hour, or a plane that it may see out there definitely will be north of 100 miles an hour. So you can take our type of product and you can configure it to for that particular application and what the range is. There's some trade-offs in the resolution that you'll get. But if you're looking for something in 100 to 200 miles an hour and you're 1 or 2 miles per hour accurate, that's pretty dang good. You're probably fine with that. As you get down, maybe down to people, you want to be much finer on that, and it just happens that the resolution will increase, as you're looking in a shorter range.
Okay. So what, in your mind, what's the ideal application for the radar, and what do you want it to do?
That's been one of the challenges for us, is actually there are so many usages for the radar. drones is a very, very interesting one. And, if we had talked a year ago or so, I would have probably just talked drone. Drones are, it's as a fit for an application, it's actually perfect. From the power budget that's required, we don't hit the time of flight budget of the drone, but we give it a lot of, very far vision. The difficulty with drones right now as a market is, I would say technically they're not really flying. The FAA doesn't have all the rules in place. There are no Amazon delivery drones flying all over our heads. That'll probably change in a couple of years, but those rules and everything have to go get in place. And I'll say the radars maybe are not at a price point yet that you would put them into all the consumer drones. That will probably come over time, but just not yet. The robotics is, it's an up and coming area, but there's still a lot of things that are going to need to be worked out on the robotics, and what exactly are the best applications there. But we're kind of sitting in a nice position to provide that, I'll say, vision that those type of applications need. The traffic monitoring is a very good one for radar right now. You doing cars and such, very straightforward, nice big shiny metal objects. It feeds into the kind of the IoT trends of just knowing your traffic patterns a whole lot better. You could optimize traffic flows. Everybody hates traffic, car traffic. So if we can optimize how the signalings are going based on more information about where the cars are and when they're, speeds and such, you can maybe get some better efficiencies out of our street systems. People traffic and the people monitoring in that sense, that's a very interesting application. It's kind of not many products are out there that do that right now. And, a lot of people might say, hey, you could go use a camera to go do that, but then you're potentially trying to get into people's privacy. That's the nice thing about radar is we see you, we know you're there, but we have no clue what color your hair is. We don't know who exactly you are because we're not taking an image that we see. We just know you're there and you move maybe from here to there and what speed and such. Radar's a very nice fit for that. There's a variation on that a number of people have been asking about and starting to work on is we say in-room presence detect. We all are kind of familiar with those kind of stupid PIR sensors where you may be sitting in the conference room just typing away and it turns off on you and you wave your hands to turn it back on again.
Yeah. In the bathroom.
Everybody knows that one. Radar easily can build a much smarter version of that, knowing that two people came in the room, one person left, and one is still in the room. So don't turn off. You can maybe get improvements in the office environment for HVAC systems, when they should be turning on and off, just off, and all of that type of knowledge of knowing when and where people are at certain times.
Okay. With the traffic example, you're right. The only time I've seen intersections monitored is when the city and the state wants to take money from people with red light cameras. But what things do you envision if it was done right, with radar and intersections, for instance, or with traffic? What kind of efficiencies could we get? Could we do accident prevention? What could we do with smart roadways like that?
Yeah, the smart roadways or smart cities is really kind of the umbrella term people are doing. And there are a number of cities are putting out efforts to do this. Kansas City has one just recently. I believe San Diego just did one, and there's a sprinkling of them all over the place. If they have better information about where the cars are, where the speeds and such, they could make those traffic signals adjust the times accordingly. We all kind of know the case of you come up on a red light and there's nobody else going in the other direction, and you're just like, why do I have the red light? You could get rid of those. You could potentially, this really gets into a good, nice, interesting networking problem of a particular intersection, knowing that the prior light, or if I go a half mile down, that the traffic is down there, therefore I can stay red and let the other people go and okay, let's not sync everything up. So there's definitely some more efficiencies you can probably get out of the street networks and the traffic lights with kind of the help of the radar data as to where the traffic is at particular times and how it's flowing.
Well, let's say you had an intersection, and you had radar mounted on the lights, and the light turns yellow, and it looks at oncoming traffic, and it judges, ooh, the speed of this car is going to put them either running the intersection at it once it's red, or they're going to have to like slam on the brakes. Is there anything that you could do in such a scenario like that if we got that data?
Yeah, you could very well be calculating that out. You know the speeds that they're coming at. You know the range as far as how far away. You could very quickly do the calculation of if I'm the light and if I stay in my traditional whatever it is 2-second yellow, you know what they're going to be in the middle of the intersection with the red, and I'll have changed over to green for that. Let's extend that yellow, for extra second or two, because I'll know they're going to get through. Or even the better, you have that kind of confirmation that they did make it through the intersection. A variation on that is also just people walking the crosswalks. Many times you'll see crosswalks that, they've got a fixed timer, and maybe they're good ones and they have the timer going down. You could tell that, maybe it's elderly person walking very slow, and the 20 seconds allotted, they're not all the way across. Well, let's extend the time. Or, 30 seconds were allotted, and the two people, I don't know, they ran across or walked very fast, and you know what? You don't need the extra 10 seconds. Well, then let's go ahead and give it over to the traffic. So you can kind of, this extra information of where people are at particular times and what's going on. You can help build in those smarts.
Yeah, you could have something that alerts the traffic going the other way and say, alert, red light runner approaching, or something like that, or flash something, or just let the intersection know, what's about to happen, to walkers, to drivers, to everything.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. And then for room detection, you'd want to detect, again, of just more accurately, so someone's not sitting in a room and the lights go off. Any other benefits there? To detect
there's a smart city, and then there's a smart home, smart office. Again, just knowing where people are, energy efficiency out of that. You could just imagine walking through your house and maybe never ever turning light switches on, just because it knows where you are, so it turns on the light ahead of you. You can. This is where some AI can kind of come in there as well, and like, you know what? Hey, that 8 to 10 p.m. Time slot, I know you always come down the hallway. Here you are in the hallway, and you always go to the door on the right. Let me turn the lights on over there, and let me turn the stuff off behind you. So there's definitely some energy efficiencies that can come into that. A variation on that has also been just for elderly care. Question we get is, can you determine if somebody has fallen? What's nice with radar and kind of the additional smarts it brings as a sensor is knowing that not only that the person's there, but a little about what they're doing. Being able to tell the difference between they're walking, they're standing, they're sitting, or in the elderly case, the question we've got, if they've fallen. Yes, we actually do time slice fast enough that we could detect and tell the difference from a stand and a sit to a fall. And then just possibly watch that extra second or two to see, are they moving any further? Did they get up? No. Okay, let's hit the alert that somebody should come in and check in on this person.
Okay, makes sense. Interesting. So where are you at with development? You want to go into these industries that aren't currently being served properly. How far along the path are you?
Yeah, we've got our first and second generation sensors out there. They're more towards the short side of the short range sensor. So what we say is a kind of typical detection range, or 10 meters for a person, 25 meters for a car. We are kind of consistently adding enhancements in the firmware and the capabilities of the sensor. Our sensors, if you see them, it is effectively is the RF front end that does the pulsing and the receiving of the signal back, and then the conversion of the signal down into a processor that we do all the signal processing, and then it gives that basic information out. What's the speed of the object that you see, what's the distance to it, and then what we've started to do is some work in the application layer. So we'll make use of that information to try to discern better what is going on in front of us. Car counting is a perfect example. That we get a lot of data a car goes by, we get a lot of data as far as the speed of it, how far away it is. But how to discern that was one car versus two cars or three cars. So we're adding more application layer code to be able to do that and give a more simple, information out to the end user, or this is the information you would just kind of push off to the cloud. Here's the statistics of the cars that have just gone by. So it's definitely what I would say is we're doing edge computing. It's the sensor, the radar sensor, but now we're adding more smarts there, and then it can just pass off that basic information off to the cloud, and then you can store it up for the whatever statistics and processing you want to do over there.
Yeah, what do you think is going to happen to our roads and to cars, as they arm themselves with all these sensors? What do you think it's going to look like on the roadways, and what kind of, maybe unexpected things you think may happen?
I mean, our goal is really that they become safer. There's our tagline that we use is sensing a safer world, and the number of accidents that are in just the U.S. alone, the number of deaths and such. There's a lot we can do to help make things safer, and just having more information about what's going on there, adjusting how things are controlled. We think we definitely can go save some lives out there. So that's our end goal, is to get these out, much more populated out, get the information out there so that we can help lower some of these traffic accident numbers.
Okay. Well, very good. So what's ahead on your roadmap for the next 6 months to a year? What's new? What's coming?
Yeah, I mean, you'll see us kind of continuing. Our existing customers kind of see this. We're almost every month adding new features into the sensor, and it's a lot of it is really a software update. And so we just roll out new functionalities to enable the customers to do more and more with the system. You will see over time capabilities to detect farther ranges than what we're currently doing, and enhance the resolution of what we are able to see, be a little bit more tighter and clearer on resolving the number of objects out there and where they are in kind of that field of view.
Okay. Well, very good. And what's the best way for people to get in touch with OmniPreSense?
Check out our website. We've got a chat on there, or just contact email, and we're really good about jumping back on and getting answers to any questions for an application or what have you.
Okay. Well, very good. Well, Rob, I appreciate you coming on the podcast.
All right. Thank you.
You have been listening to Almost Here, Around the Corner Future Technology podcast with Richard Jacobs. Subscribe to this podcast, post a review to discover more future technologies that are poised to transform our lives for better or worse, such as Bitcoin, artificial intelligence, 3D printing, blockchain, virtual reality, and more.